So as we all know by now, Indiana Jones 5 didn't open to a great box office opening weekend, only bringing in $60 million in its opening weekend at the box office. Now, a lot of you guys may be thinking that that's a good number, seeing as the budget for the movie was only $300 million, and making $60 million in 3 days should be really good. However, why this number is actually really bad is because the $300 million budget is not all the money they need to earn back, because on top of the budget, they also spent between $200 and $300 million on marketing. On top of that, actors receive equity, and there's always under-the-table payments that studios make to actors, producers, and many people involved in the project. So it's actually been reported that Indiana Jones 5 needs to earn $900 million at the box office just to break even. And with the movie only bringing in $60 million in its opening weekend, that is definitely not on track to break even and make any profit at all. Because as we've seen with many other films this year, the trend is that the box office it makes in its opening weekend will actually drop by about 50 to 60% to the next weekend. So that means that next weekend, in its second weekend at the box office, it'll probably only bring in between $25 and $30 million at the box office, meaning that after 2 weeks, it still wouldn't have made back $100 million, meaning that this movie is most likely not going to make a profit at all. And this is the latest of 9 projects done by Disney that have lost over $1 billion for the company. So in the last 8 movies that Disney put out before Indiana Jones, the company has lost over $900 million, and with Indiana Jones 5 not making a profit at the box office, they're probably bound to lose over $1 billion in their last 9 projects. And this has hurt Disney in a really big way, as we've recently seen that they've announced another round of cuts. I feel like I'm making a video a week at this point of Disney firing staff members, but once again, they fired thousands of staff to try and save themselves a few $1 billion because they're really running low on profit and income, and they probably have to find a way to stay afloat at this point. But what's crazy is that they didn't just fire people from their entertainment team, but Disney's also fired people from companies that they also own, meaning that they've fired reporters from ESPN, they've also fired people from National Geographic, because they are all companies owned by Disney, and Disney's trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel to try and make some money somehow and stay afloat. And we all knew that this was coming when Bob Iger replaced Bob Chapek as the head of Disney. However, we didn't know it would be this bad. We knew they would try and make a profit, we knew they would try and become more profitable as a business, but we didn't know that they were going to fire over 7,000 staff members to do so. I mean, this doesn't look good, because at the moment, what that tells me is that they have no hope with their future projects in the near future. Because if they had a slither of hope in their upcoming projects, they probably wouldn't be firing staff, because they'd expect themselves to make money back on some good projects in the future. And this was the case for Disney over the last 10 years, because they had Marvel running really strong, and even though the Star Wars projects weren't getting great reviews, they were still making money. Disney weren't worried financially, they weren't firing staff, they were actually hiring a lot more staff, because they were making so much money through acquiring Marvel and through acquiring Star Wars. But now that Marvel is failing, and Marvel's not bringing in a lot of money, and Star Wars is not bringing in money at all, Disney's starting to get really worried, and it comes across as them not having any hope for any of their future projects, and that's why they're firing staff from National Geographic and ESPN to try and save their entertainment companies some money. And with it looking so bad, I just can't see how Disney can actually save themselves at this point, because they've already announced a few projects coming up in the future that don't look good, that fans aren't excited for. They haven't had any projects this year that have been real smash hits, so I don't know how Disney's going to be able to right their ship and get back on a good financial track before they just completely run out of money in the next 2 to 3 years. And when you look at their upcoming projects in the near future, it's hard to find one that even looks remotely like a hit. I mean, they've announced they're making a Bambi live-action remake that fans are already making memes about. You're also looking at Secret Invasion for the MCU, which is really underperforming, doesn't have great reviews, and has really bad ratings on Disney+. So overall, the MCU and Marvel is failing for Disney. On top of that, they announced another Daisy Ridley Star Wars trilogy that fans have already come out and protested against and said that they're going to boycott the films because they didn't like the last trilogy they did with Daisy Ridley playing Rey Skywalker. So when you look at those major projects for Disney and how they don't look good already, even though they've only just been announced and nothing's even been made, yet fans are already coming out protesting these projects, I mean, it doesn't look good for Disney at this point, and the fact that they have nothing in the near future that looks remotely like something that's actually going to bring in some money and make some profit for Disney, I don't know how they can actually save themselves at this point. And it is really sad to see such a great company from my childhood and such an iconic entertainment company go under like this, because when you look at Disney and what they used to be and what they represented for decades was a great storytelling company that was at the forefront of storytelling, was innovative, was educational, was inspiring, was creative. Everything good about storytelling seemed to come from Disney for so long, and when they bought Marvel, it was actually exciting because they came out with some really great projects, but it's just been the last 3 to 4 years where Disney's really been struggling, and they've really gone away from the way they were, and they've seemed to have steered away from what made Disney so great for so long, and I just don't see any of that Disney magic in any of their films anymore. And when you compare where Disney's at with other production companies like Warner Brothers, Paramount, and Universal, you can really see how far behind they've fallen. Because Warner Brothers is going to have a great back end to 2023 with Barbie about to come out. You've also got Dune Part 2, which will make anywhere between $600 million or $1 billion at the box office. So they've got some smash hit films coming out at the back end of the year. And Paramount also has another great film in Mission Impossible 7. But when you look at Disney, you can't see anything that actually looks like it's going to be a hit this year. So they're really going to fall behind the competition that they were well ahead of for many years. But when you look at all those successful projects for the other production companies like Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible, the one thing that they all share in common is the fact that they serve the fans, is the fact that they're making movies that the audience wants to see. They're original concepts, they're fun, they're entertaining, they're not political lectures like so many projects coming out of Disney at this point. They're just making movies that people can enjoy. And sure, Oppenheimer's going to touch on politics, and sure, Dune Part 2 also touches on some politics, but they do it in an educational way, and they do it in a truthful way that's good for storytelling. They're not coming at it from one political side and pushing a complete propagated agenda onto their audience and lecturing their audience about who's bad to society. No, they're just showing both sides and showing how it plays out in reality, and people are fine to see politics in films that way, but it's when it comes across as a lecture and a one-sided propagated agenda, that's when fans and audiences tune out. But when you look at all those projects that are going to be smash hits for other companies, they're just films that fans want to see, and they're going to be entertaining, good movies, and that's all we actually want to see, and that's all Disney would have had to have done to make a profit, yet they just didn't do it. They just didn't listen to their fans, didn't listen to the audience, and they're really paying the price for it. Because honestly, I don't think it's a problem with Hollywood, I just think it's a problem right now with Disney, because the rest of Hollywood looks like it's in a great place, and we're going to end this year with some amazing projects and some great films, and a lot of the dramatic, independent films coming out are really good. It's just these big blockbusters that are coming from specifically Disney that are hindering the rest of the cinematic industry and is really making people feel down on movies in Hollywood, but I don't think it's a problem with movies in Hollywood. I'm extremely optimistic for some great projects coming up in the future. I think Hollywood's in a great place, in a strong place, but at the moment, it just comes across as Disney that are really suffering and Disney that are really killing the buzz around movies at this moment. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below in the comments. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all on my next video.